Indie games have introduced us to so many fascinating characters over the years. Some good, some, well, not so good, but many with one thing in common. This one goes out to our favorite woman in the indie gaming sphere. The badass woman with intriguing backstories, admirable motives, and relatable circumstances. This is our list of just some of our favorites. While we may not like everything they do, we just can't get enough of their games. We begin this list with the young spirit guide Kenna, from none other than 2021's surprise hit Kenna Bridge of Spirits. While she's not collecting rot, Kenna is bashing enemies with her modular staff or relying on her pulse. Kenna is a beautifully kind-hearted soul who is always willing to help those in need. Though she is resourceful, Kenna is also compassionate and an empathetic character, which makes her incredibly endearing from beginning to end. Her role as a spirit guide is to assist the deceased in passing on to the afterlife, but she also goes out of her way to help the living inhabitants of the village who are suffering, which says a great deal about her character. Kenna's character design is inspired by Southeast Asian cultures, and her appearance reflects this influence with her colorful robe and traditional hairstyle. Her weapons and abilities also draw from the natural world, incorporating elements such as vines and flowers. It's hard to imagine this game without Kenna now, but believe it or not, the original idea was centered around the rot entirely. In fact, Kenna didn't even exist until a bit later, and she started out as being an 8-year-old. I think it's safe to say the developers made the right decision in crafting the Kenna we all know and love, and she has become a beloved icon in indie gaming. Odds are, if you've been around the indie scene for a little while now, you've probably heard of a little game called Celeste. From its soul-crushing difficulty to its precise mechanics, Celeste is perhaps one of the most beloved indies of our time. While on the surface, Madeline is just a young woman attempting to climb a treacherous mountain, so much more about her is revealed as the story progresses. Madeline's journey is an allegory for her struggles with anxiety and depression, two very relatable topics that at the time weren't being discussed nearly enough in gaming. Hell, some might argue they still aren't being talked about as much as they should be. She's brave, likable, strong, and courageous. Oh, and I killed her like a million times along the way, but good thing for video game logic, right? Madeline is not only a compelling indie game character, she is an important one. Next up is one of my favorite games from the last decade, and a big part of that is due to the lead character. This is Night in the Woods, and we're talking about May, of course. May is somewhat similar to Madeline in that she deals with mental health struggles as so many of us do. I've always loved cats, but I've never quite related to the internal struggles of a cat like I did here. May struggles with finding her place in the world and feeling like a failure when her first attempt at adulthood doesn't quite pan out the way she planned. I know many of us have experienced something similar to May's story in our own ways. Night in the Woods is a thought-provoking game that tackles important issues and delivers a compelling narrative. The phenomenal writing, audio, and visual design all deserve the praise they have received, but through it all, it's May and her struggles that have stuck with me most all of these years later. Gris, or Gris, depending on who you ask, is a young woman who traverses a dreamlike world filled with puzzles and platforming challenges with a dress to die for. Indie gamers were captivated not only by the lead character, but by the stunning art direction of the game itself. Throughout the gameplay, Gris faces numerous obstacles, unlocking new areas and abilities, and restoring color to an otherwise monochromatic world. The character represents a deep, burning passion in all of us. She possesses the ability to move forward in the face of adversity and persevere through difficult times. We learn so much about her childhood, particularly if players are able to collect all of the game's mementos, and that moment when Gris can sing again, absolutely intoxicating. Last but certainly not least is a more recent addition. Love her or hate her, she makes for a hell of a story. That's right, I may not have loved playing as her, but she is definitely one kick-ass lady. First of all, if you haven't played Loretta, it's a tale about a mistreated housewife in the 1940s that chooses to take matters into her own hands. She makes some questionable decisions that overtake her thoughts and actions moving forward, but she fights like hell for financial and psychological independence in this tumultuous slice of history. I feel like I haven't heard nearly enough people talking about this game since it came out in February of this year, so this is your sign to take on the role of a disgruntled housewife. And that wraps up this list of some of our favorite women in indie games. Have a favorite that didn't appear on the the list? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching and see you on the channel.